Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Who Cares? I'm your host, Taylor Wallace, and yeah, this week is going well. I injured my shoulder, and I'm hoping it's not a big deal because I started playing pickleball, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say that because, yeah, I kind of was looking down on the pickleballers there for a little while, but yeah, I'm getting into it, and I'm really liking it, and smacking the ball around, dinking it up out there, joined a league. But then, yeah, I did something, hurt my shoulder. And so that's a new fun thing. I'm always finding interesting ways to hurt myself in whatever I'm doing. So that's the newest thing. And yeah, really, really grateful for all the support that you guys have been giving me. It's really exciting to get feedback and comments and reviews and all of that stuff. So thank you very much for your support. This has been, a challenge to get this thing out and to do this and to get past the imposter syndrome and all of that stuff. So it's really amazing to have so much support from all of y'all. If you haven't yet, please go to either Spotify or Apple Podcasts and follow or subscribe. That really helps me out. And follow us on Instagram at Who the Pod Cares. Yeah, anything you can do to support means a lot. It really does, and all those little things help. It adds up in a big way. I'm really excited for today's guest. She is a comedian and an author. She does stand-up and hosts a series here in Austin called Half Empty, Half Full, which is really, really fun. I went and checked that out. She's the author of the book Snacks for the Love Hungry, which is a collection of poetry that is funny and dark and sexual and just really, really well written. I really like this book and I highly recommend it. Go check it out. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at some local bookstores here in town. Great book. We talk about imposter syndrome, dating above the age of 40. We talk about the process of writing a book and everything that comes with that. And yeah, we just kind of get into some life stuff and some of the usual topics that we cover on this podcast. She's a delight. I hope that you will enjoy this episode. Here is my episode with Valerie Nies. Valerie.
Yes, Taylor.
Hey.
Hey.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks.
That I have. That's totally a real thing.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. I'm excited to talk to you. You're somebody that I like, I would say I don't know very well, but I've known you for a long time. Mm-hmm. And so I've always kind of admired what you do. And especially in preparation for this, I started digging a little bit deeper, and I'm very impressed with your book, with your poetry, with your comedy.
Cool.
And I want to get into some of that, and I just want to talk a little bit about life.
Sure, sounds good.
Yeah. How's your week?
Good. It's been really busy, and with my day job and also my creative endeavors. I got to perform some comedy last night. Gonna read from a humor, I'm gonna be at the Texas Book Festival later tonight reading a humor piece. So it's been
busy,
a very fulfilling month for performance and artistic expression.
How was the show last night?
It was very good. It was at Quack's Bakery on Manchaca, and that's a really cool venue. That serves coffee as well as pastries. So even if your comedy set doesn't go well, you're going home with a cupcake. So
that's
it's a winning combo.
It used to be Strange Brew.
It did used to be Strange Brew.
And then they have a bigger room.
Yeah, so it's a cool stage to perform on as well. And I think they have lots of shows there, lots of different kinds of shows. So
good turnout.
Singer-songwriter. Yeah, there was a whole table of older people, So I think a lot of comedians were like, how do I perform for these folks? And I felt very comfortable performing for them.
Yeah.
I was like, these people are going to be forgiving. And I'm in between the young comedians' ages and this particular type of audience member's age. So
you weren't sweating it at all.
Not really. I was like, I feel like these
silver hairs.
Yeah. These young comedians who are making fun of these folks. And I'm like, we're all getting there. So
yeah. And they're like, all my jokes have to do with TikTok.
OnlyFans. Yeah. And TikTok. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm light on TikTok material and OnlyFans material. So mine were okay. I have a joke about calling 311 a lot. So I felt like this crowd identified with that.
That's awesome. I'm curious how did you get into comedy? When did that start for you? Like, was it something you wanted to do from a really young age?
Yeah, I think I always had like sort of a wry sense of humor and was always interested in storytelling. I grew up in North Dakota in the 90s.
Super funny place.
Yeah, so there weren't, YouTube didn't exist. There weren't comedy clubs everywhere. It wasn't like Austin or New York or LA or Chicago or Denver, creative places at all. So and in a time when not everybody was able to perform comedy. So I didn't really know that you could like be a stand-up comedian when I was growing up. And even when I went to college, YouTube wasn't invented yet. I think that happened shortly after I graduated. So I felt like people always, said you're funny, and I made people laugh at happy hours. And then I started trying to do comedy at open mics in Austin, and there were only like 2 or 3 open mics. It was before there were a bunch of comedy theaters, and I didn't know how to write. I didn't know how to write comedy, so I really sucked a lot. I was not good. And then I probably bombed performing, and I was like, well, that didn't feel good, so I'm never going to go do that again. And then a few years passed, and I realized you could take different classes. I'd started to take improv and sketch writing classes, and doing all of those things together and then going out and performing at open mics helped me to figure out how to write jokes. So I would say that I used to perform stand-up. I don't necessarily even consider myself to be a stand-up these days.
Yeah.
But if somebody asks me, I will surely perform, and I try to support especially younger comedians who are starting out, especially women comedians. So I have my own show that I do once a month that combines comedy with literary work because I'm also interested in essay writing and poetry, and I want to meet more writers. And so this is a great opportunity to combine both of these interests. And
that's the show that I saw?
Yes, yeah. Half Empty, Half Full.
Empty, Half Full.
Yeah, it's a monthly show currently at Cold Town Theater in a really cool space. And it's been going on for over a year, and I'm really happy with how we're shaping it up. How I'm shaping it up. But I'm like, who's we?
No,
it's me. It's my show.
You're putting it on, which is not an easy thing to do, and takes a lot of work, thought, planning, commitment. It's very impressive to host something like that and to do it for so long. Yeah, and so it's evolving. And I should say, one of the performers on it, he's a regular judge who's on every show, Tyler Randall. He's very funny, and we have a lot of repeat performers, and really happy with it. Yeah, it's interesting. Growing up, I was the class clown. Mm-hmm. I was always making people laugh. I loved stand-up comedy. I watched it religiously. Comedy Central was my favorite channel. It was just always on. And I always wanted to be a comedian, but I think it's one of the most terrifying things to do. Yeah. I ended up becoming a musician, so performing was still something that I wanted to do, but doing it with other people. Yes. And having this, I don't know, music felt like something that I could hide behind almost. Mm-hmm. But the amount of times that I've had friends that are like, we're going to go do open mic and just try it out. Let's go. And I'm just like, absolutely not. It terrifies me. And so I'm so enamored by people that do it and find the courage to go get up there and do it, because it's such a vulnerable art form, and there's no way to do it and not, you're gonna bomb, you're gonna just get crickets, so I'm so impressed by people that do it and find the courage to do it and get up and suck at it and then do it again. Yeah. And yeah, what was that process like for you in the beginning?
Well, I think that everything that you're saying is really relatable. I think many people want to do stand-up comedy because the people who do it so well make it look easy. And why I was attracted to it was, I think George Carlin was the first comedian that I was really impressed by.
Yeah.
I love words. He loves words. He was just so smart. And that's like the kind of comedy that I sometimes enjoy the most. I like all kinds of comedy. I wish, so today I teach classes and I have answers to all of the things that you said for other people. And I wish that I would have had somebody like that who could, and I did have teachers and people in my life who said little snippets of this, but like, I think it would have been wonderful if I had heard that you are going to bomb and that's part of the job. Like consider that to just be what the job entails. Like any job has parts, days that are better and days that are not as good, but each one of those situations you learn something from. So like if you in your day job send out a newsletter with a typo in it, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means maybe you were busy and next time you'll do better and you'll be more thoughtful and you'll maybe involve others in proofreading for you, you know?
Yeah.
And
but you also in that scenario, you have somebody that is guiding you and giving you feedback and reviewing you constantly, your manager, your supervisor, but like you have to self-manage and self-edit so much as a comedian and a performer, you know?
Yeah, and so, but I think one thing that I fell into, like the first time I bombed and then I took a break for a while, was like I thought like because I bombed, that meant that I was a bad person, that I sucked, that I just carried all this shame around it. And it's like, no, you're just a beginner. Like I think, I don't know if everybody has this around every other art form, but I feel like with stand-up comedy, people expect to be really good at it right away. And it takes people who we watch on television or Netflix specials or when we go to comedy clubs, and they're outperforming every night of the week. They've been doing this for a really long time.
Yeah.
And if you would have seen them their first few months or their first year, you would have thought they sucked too. Or their first 2 or 3 years, you would have thought that.
Yeah.
So I think having realistic expectations, and nobody really comes out and tells you that. So that's what I like to do for my students, is like help them to be realistic. Like this is a really cool thing that you get to try out. Let's measure yourself against yourself and be like realistic about what that actually is. You don't have to, and it doesn't, if it doesn't hit, if you don't make somebody laugh, it just means that maybe there needs to be more work done around that joke. Not that like you're a bad human being. And I think you mentioned something about like people are vulnerable when they're on stage. And I think as audience members, we can tell when somebody isn't being vulnerable and that isn't as funny to us. And so sometimes starting out, it's trying to just get comfortable enough on stage a bunch of times so that you're getting better and better at being vulnerable. And some people that comes more naturally too, and we're just impressed right away. But for most of us, I think it takes practice.
Yeah, it's I think I've talked about that on previous episodes a lot, about this idea that people have that you got to be good right off the bat, you know, in any kind of thing that you're doing, whether you're starting a business or a podcast or a comedian or you're a writer. Like your first things are never going to set the world on fire, you know?
Yeah.
People aren't going to be like, holy shit, where did this person come from? They're the next coming of Christ in this form of whatever medium they're trying to do. It's you know, everything in life takes so much repetition and so much work to get good at, whether it's just your job or, you know, being a partner or whatever. And so I think it's easy for me to focus on people that are doing really well and just going like, oh, well, that's just how they were made. Mm-hmm. They're just the lucky ones that like woke up one day and were excellent, you know. But it's like what you said, like, no, they worked at it for years and years and years, and like that's how they got to where they're at.
Or maybe they were really good right away too, and then you have the challenge of like, can I replicate that? Because it's like, you know, the sophomore curse of like an album or something, you know, from a musician. So there's that. like you could be really good at something and then be really hard on yourself for it taking longer the second time, because sometimes great ideas do come to us and we're the vessel that gets chosen to perform that piece of art or that piece of comedy, and then you can get really in your head about like doing that again, or just I can get like really precious about what I'm producing, and I feel like it's just much better when I can let something go. Like I'm going to continue to have ideas. Maybe this one's great, maybe it's not, but like let's let it go and move on to the next thing.
Yeah, no, it's a common thing in music, the sophomore slump, and musicians talk about it a lot, because it's like when you write your first record, it's like you have a lifetime of heartbreak and you know, feelings and emotions and things to draw from that have just been, you know, building up and are ready to come out of you. And then you make a record and then you're expected to just turn around and do it again. And it's like, well, I only have a year of life experience since the last one. I can't just like write the same songs again. So it's hard to manufacture something so meaningful in such a short amount of time, you know?
I wrote that book of poetry, and I think like that was a few years ago that it was published. So I have thoughts about it now where it's like I wouldn't have put as many poems in there. It does feel like a memoir in some ways to me if I look, because of exactly what you're saying. Like it's like every phase of my life is like captured in that up until that point. And I look at people that I know and admire, other poets who have multiple books, and their books are much thinner than mine, and they have like 4 collections. And it's like, oh yeah, I don't know if musicians think this way, but as a writer, I'm like, well, I may never write a book again, so this has to have everything in it. Mm-hmm. And exactly your point. Like now it's been a few years, so I think I would have enough work that explores other ideas and themes. But if I would have been expected to write one immediately after, like a year after, that would have been quite a challenge, I think.
Yeah. I mean, poetry is very similar to songs. As a songwriter, like lyrics are poems. Mm-hmm. And I draw inspiration from my life and my feelings and my emotions. And so that very much the same thing. Like, you know, there were so many things that I wrote on my first album that like I'd been holding on to for 5, 10, 15 years, you know? Yeah, I totally identify with that. And I want to talk about your book at some point in this conversation, because it's very good. Your poetry is really, really good.
Thanks. Yeah, I feel like a lot of it has some darkly comedic tones. It has a lot of pop culture references in it. But I don't need to self-deprecate. I was about to say something that's like, well, I don't need to say that.
Where was that? I don't need to know what that thought was.
Yeah.
But like, is that just a natural thing for you to like put your work down when somebody's...
Yes, absolutely. I think it's hard to accept a compliment. I know I'm not the only person who feels that way. And to just be a hard critic against yourself. And this is like, the work can speak for itself, and I don't need to tell anybody how they should feel about reading my book, you know? I've had a conversation with a friend about that, because like sometimes people who you don't necessarily want to read you're not thinking like that person's going to buy my book, like somebody who you know from a different area of your life, maybe more of a professional area of your life, or a family member who's going to potentially read things about themselves, or just like see you in a way that they don't think of you. You know, my parents haven't really they purchased my book and they're very supportive, but you know, my mom read the second poem and was like, oh, this seems like sort of sexy. And it's actually not. Like if she finished the poem, it's like whatever. It speaks to violence against women, but it's using the language of sex to talk about that. Yeah. And that was enough for her, and she had a boundary, and that's okay. But you just don't know how other people are going to react to your work, and it's not my job to extrapolate or provide a disclaimer. And I think that's a pet peeve of mine, when a comedian that I'm working with tries to tell me up front like how they want me to feel about something. I want them to perform it first, and then we can have a discussion about that later. Yeah. So then I notice when I am doing that myself, I try to correct it.
Yeah, but I mean, I do that with any kind of compliment, you know, whether it's about this shirt If you're
Sure.
like, I love that shirt. I'll be like, I bought this 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like, whatever, you know, like.
You
Somebody
loved Taylor 10
complimented
years
my
ago.
hair the other
You loved
day,
Taylor.
and I was just like, yeah, I actually sprayed hairspray on it, you know, like, and they were like, hairspray? I didn't even know people still use hairspray. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I just was lazy and
It's okay.
used hairspray. It's just like I can't take the compliment without, but
Sure.
you know, and so I wonder, I don't know how to get past that, you know, like.
I mean, I think it's just like trying to correct yourself in the moment if you notice it, or even like afterwards. I don't know why I said that I'm a weirdo for using hairspray, because lots of people use hairspray.
Yeah.
I mean, so many people use hairspray that now they've come up with different terms for different types of sprays that we should be using, but it's all probably just
It's all
hairspray.
the same stuff.
Thickening spray, volumizing spray, texture spray.
Yeah.
I know this because I bought some recently.
Well, I was like trying to find hairspray, and I, you know, like everyone was like extra firm hold, extra firm hold, and I was like, where's the like light hold?
There is a
where's
light
the
hold
medium
version.
like?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I couldn't find. I got overwhelmed just looking for hairspray.
It's just
It
very
was-
American. We need it to be extra hold.
Yeah.
Maximum hold.
Yeah, and 75 different variations of probably the exact same chemical composition and strength.
Yes.
But just with different labels on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's all just made in the
We're being
same
tricked.
factory with different bottles.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm curious because like you've written poetry, you do comedy, you write essays, you have one-woman shows. Like, how do you know which thought or feeling belongs inside what medium and
Yeah.
container, you know?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I just am an oversharer. Like if I'm probably not like if somebody pointed a gun to my head and was like, describe what you do, it would just be like, if I had only one word, it would be overshare. And so I just need to talk about what's going on in my life or what I'm feeling emotional about or what I feel strongly about. And I think there's, at least with poetry and comedy, I often have something that's bothering me or that's just on my mind or that I'm living through, and that gets turned into a joke and often also a poetry version of that same topic. I wrote an essay about being a woman of a certain age dating a man who was younger, and there's lines in there that I've been saying in stand-up for the last 2 years. So there's little things that are peppered, and also I wrote a one-woman show that touched on that topic too, and not all of this was written at one time, but it's just a thing. It's a theme that's been in my life for a few years, so it's gotten touched on in each one of those areas. But each one of those pieces, I think, would be interesting even to the same person if they saw or read any of them, because they are all different too.
Yeah, even if it's the same kind of thought
It's a
or
theme, yeah.
but it's being expressed differently in
Yes.
each one of those mediums.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, which is super cool.
Yeah, so to answer that question, I think just I'm not really making a conscious decision. I just am working on all of those things, not necessarily all at the same time.
Yeah.
But the themes.
You're not really making the decision. It's just kind of like the decision is being made for you naturally of like.
I wish I could talk about other things sometimes. Like, it's like, I feel like bored of myself. Like, do I really need to be still talking about this? Like, I wish there's some comedians who have material that's really not even about them. I mean, it is, but it isn't. Like, it's about their experience skydiving or something. And I just have to go back to this well of like, it's usually around dating, I think. Like, what is my my dynamic with a partner or with like around wanting that or not wanting that, or how age relates to that. Like, it just feels like sort of that I talk about the same thing, kind of. I don't know if that's how other people perceive it, but sometimes I'm annoyed with myself.
Yeah, well, it's kind of, it's your flavor of comedy.
Yeah.
It's your flavor of humor and like where you find humor and inspiration. And I think most comedians are like exploring something, that scares them or bothers them or that makes them angry and are trying to like flip it into this positive like emotion,
Yes. But I'm not like nobody would ever be like, we should get her for the Daily Show. Like she's great at topical, like political humor or like stand-up comedy, at least, you know, that kind of. So.
Yeah, I could see you on the Daily Show.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say, like, I've written the piece that I've written like satirical pieces. I just feel like I haven't for a while, basically. Yeah. But because I think it could be exhausting, sort of. So. But
your humor is very based in like the plight of, you know, being a woman in this world.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You know? And it's like all in your poetry and yeah. And in the comedy of yours that I've seen, and I think it resonates with me, and I'm not a woman in this world, you know, but like you're really good at it. You're really good at explaining and like touching to the core of this certain issue in a really interesting way for me as a man, you know.
Yeah, I think that's the powerful thing of any kind of art from any single person. The more specific you are to your experience, the more relatable it actually is to people who could be totally different from you.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that I try to tell students of mine who might be like, well, I need to make it more general because not everybody can relate to this. And you're right. Like you can't necessarily relate to my specific experience, but you have your own, you can map on your own sort of reactions to something that's personally going on with you. And that's, yeah, the things that I like the most aren't necessarily from people that I have the exact same experience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. So you mentioned it just now, so we might as well dive into it. Something I hear you talk about a lot is being a woman of a certain age.
Yeah.
And I really love your take on it, but I want to know, like, what does being a woman of a certain age mean to you? And I know a lot of that is like wrapped around dating.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started dating again. So let's dive into,
Sure.
Let's dive into it.
Yeah. A couple years ago, I started saying woman of a certain age because I was writing a one-woman show called Midlife Renaissance. And I think when I started talking about being a woman of a certain age, it was just like a way to kind of say that like I didn't want to talk about my age. Being a woman of a certain age is like being the age where you don't want to talk about your age. You kind of want to hide it. And that's what it started out as. And it was like the show and this idea. I mean, it's like basically just exploring the idea of being middle-aged and sort of the scarcity mindset that probably all of us have, but I feel like from a woman's point of view that like as you get older, you become less relevant. Like the world sort of ends for you is what society would tell us. Your best years are behind you. You're no longer attractive to men. And that really hasn't been, I mean, and then if you think about like in my personal experience, like as I've gotten older, like this is the best time. Like I know how to handle situations better. I am much more in touch with like myself and what I want and like what makes me happy and not necessarily what makes other people happy. And I'm like more successful in my career, more confident in my creative life. So I have that going on, but at the same time, society is telling me that like it's over and after you turn 40, you should just jump off a bridge. And also like part of this idea is like looking at my own ideas around what it means to have a successful life. And I didn't necessarily follow a traditional life template. I'm middle-aged. I'm in my 40s. I'm single. I've never been married. I didn't have kids. I didn't want kids. But that's like, who are you? You know, like,
yeah.
And also thinking that like, there's so much that's wrapped up in this idea for me, that for such a long time, I think I thought that in my 30s and 20s that like in order to have a fulfilling life, you needed to have a partnership with somebody and it needed to look a certain way and it needed to last a certain amount of time. And that's what it would mean to be successful. And to me, like being a woman of a certain age is also just accepting that those ideas are outdated. I don't really know if, like, I don't know how to say this exactly. Like, women are told that they're high maintenance. But in my experience, I love men. I love being around men, but also they can be very high maintenance in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is such a thing as a male loneliness epidemic. I think men often rely on their romantic partner for friendship, for a lot. And we never focus on that, but we do focus a lot on women and how they need to be defined by their relationship. So a woman of a certain age is really coming to terms with like being totally cool with not really following a life template. But that's not really where the idea started. The idea started of just like, oh God, there's these physical things that are happening to my body, and there's also like cool things that are happening. Like, I have found that I've become more attractive to younger men in my 40s than, like, I feel like in my 30s. Men also have a lot of pressure in their 30s, and dating comes with all this, like, well, you know, do we need to get married, or are they going to want to get married, or, you know, their biological clocks are ticking, are they going to want to have kids? I'm really talking for a long time about this. I don't know if it's even coherent, but
you have a lot of feelings. But the thing is, like, I identify to so much of what you just said, and I'm super hyper aware that the, you know, societal pressures and standards on women are like exactly what you said. You know, like, it's cruel, it's hard. You know, the beauty industry and the fashion industry is constantly like telling you have to be prettier and younger and wear wrinkle reducer every night and have a 12-step skincare routine and all of these things. Stay young as long as possible, you know? And it, witnessing it as a man, like, it makes me angry. But I'm also experiencing all of those same things now. Like, turning 43, recently single out of my longest relationship ever. And I'm like getting back into dating, and I'm like, there were moments where I like, is it okay if I do, like, what if I put 39 on my dating profile?
Oh God.
Is that super? And I'm like, no, you can't do that. And then it's like, yeah, I'm turning gray really fast. And like, I used to like walk by the aisle and see the beard dye section and be like, what fucking loser is buying this shit and dyeing their beard? Like, just sack up and accept that you're turning gray. And now I'm like, should I dye my beard? Because it's like, it's all I see. You know, when I look at a photo of me, I feel like I look so much older than I feel. And like, my best days are behind me, and like, it's all downhill from here. And like, it's such a weird, getting older is such a weird thing. And then thinking about dating while getting older is also just like uncharted territory.
I really love everything you're talking about, because I think it's so relatable to look in the mirror and you feel like you're 18, right? You're just like a wiser 18-year-old or a wiser 27-year-old or whatever it might be. And then you look in the mirror and you're like, I used to have more collagen in these places of my face, you know? I by the way, like, as an aside, I think men look great gray. And I mean, I'm not in your experience as you're looking at your beard, but I think it's totally fine to let your beard go gray. I think men shouldn't feel bad about going bald. I think that there's tons and tons. It's just about like the confidence. Like, what makes people sexy is making other people laugh, and like confidence, and just being authentic. But
so many women have told me that, and every woman on the planet could tell me that. It wouldn't change the way that I felt when I looked in the mirror and saw that my eyes are starting to droop, and that, like,
well, I'm a
just
big
like
fan.
all of these things where I'm just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't consent to this, you know?
I talked about this last night on stage. Like, I was the one person who just didn't, I guess maybe other people think this too. Like, I thought that I was going to be exempt from aging. I mean, not really. Like, I was like, I knew that I would age. I just didn't think I would have to experience the symptoms of aging. I like that you talked about like, should I put a different age on my my online profile? I have so many feelings about this. I dated a guy, like a messy person for, I don't know. I was preoccupied with him for like a year and a half, and he lied about his age on his profile. And I thought that was stupid at the time. And I wish that I would have followed my gut and just like been like, this person isn't being truthful. Like he said he was 45, he was 48 or something, or 49. I can't remember. And, but I too have had the same thing. Like, it's like, there's a certain age, like where like you're like, I'm cool with this age. And then it gets to a certain age and you're like, but this, like, certain ages feel scarier than others. And you're like, I don't like being on this end of the decade, you know?
Yeah.
And I too have thought about that, but I really,
No, I mean, you know, I'm obviously like, that isn't okay. Like,
Yes.
for me, I can't lie, but there is a part of the dating apps that also feels like it's a game.
100%.
Right? And so, like, I'm not even being viewed by some people that probably would date me.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, arbitrarily in their head, like on the slider, let's just keep it below this number, you know? And so when I think about dating apps, I'm like, it's just a game. We're all just like trying to game the system to get the best people to like us.
It's
on
weird.
There. It's the
to
worst.
amplify romance.
It's the worst thing.
It is, and I don't really love them, and I know I'm like a rare. Like nobody loves dating apps. I have not had any like. I mean, like, have I had long-term success? I don't know what the word success means. I guess around dating, but yeah, like it's really just should be used as like a mechanism to meet people, but then we all are strapped with time, and so you do use it to be more selective. And I mean, but if you met somebody that was, meeting people in person has meant that I've dated people with different political, like I would have never dated them if I saw them on an app because I wouldn't have agreed with their politics. We wouldn't have shown up in each other's searches because our age differences wouldn't have allowed us to even be seen by one another. But then you meet people in person and some of that shit just doesn't matter. Like age doesn't matter as much. Your politics don't matter as much. It's like your chemistry and how are you as a human being.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I don't love apps at all to try to find, to try to meet people.
I think the apps are already, I think that it's very deceitful and disingenuous in general. Like we're all putting our absolute best foot forward.
Yeah.
We're trying to come up with the best little, bio or little whatever those prompt things are. We're trying to we're trying to game the system to win our matches.
It's like Candy Crush,
Yeah, no, it does. It feels like a game, and so yeah, that's the only time when I'm just like, does it matter if I put the real age on here? But ultimately I don't like lying in general, and I would never want to be like, hey, you know how my dating profile says I'm 38? Well, I'm not. I just could never have that conversation.
Yeah.
But the fact that it pops into my head is weird to me.
Yeah,
It's telling of the game and the system.
And our comfort or discomfort around age.
Yeah.
Provided to us by society that tells us that we're worthless as we get older.
Yeah.
So this is what I didn't like last night at this comedy show was younger comedians telling really ageist comments because this group of people weren't necessarily laughing at their OnlyFans jokes. And whereas I just felt more empathy and sensitive to this group of people because I feel more like I'm close. I'm not their age yet, but I feel already just noticing and observing that there's ageism out there. And when you're younger and you're a 25-year-old, you're just not thinking about that yet, and you shouldn't be, honestly.
Yeah.
So.
No, you shouldn't be at all. I wish we weren't now.
Me too. I don't like being somebody who feels like I'm relating to this. Anyway, my 311 joke did really nobody else would have probably thought that was as funny except for these folks. It wasn't even really a joke. It was just the truth.
Yeah.
Which is that there's been a tree in a median that really has been bothering me because it's too overgrown. It's a shrub, and it's a safety issue. So I've been calling 311 on a regular basis, and I just didn't think I would be the kind of person that calls 311 weekly and complain about something.
Well, you are a woman of a certain age.
Yes,
so that
exactly.
makes sense.
That is the
checks out.
age where you call 311.
Which you also told me before we started recording that you're becoming more interested in birds.
Yes. Well, I think every older person is, but they're really so fashionable. And I mean, I think during the pandemic, a lot of people started bird watching who maybe didn't bird watch as much because they were just so loud and there was nothing else to do. And we all downloaded the Merlin app. And I moved to a place where now there's starting to become more development. But when I first moved out there, it was like, there's nothing to do out here except look at birds. So, and butterflies. And, so yeah, I feel like when I see birds or feathers, it's like very spiritual and meaningful. I feel like it's a good sign when you're visited by a bird. This feels lame. I think I thought this was going to be more exciting if I talked about birds.
Well, yeah, birding, getting older. I want to talk more about your book now.
Okay.
I am incredibly impressed by anybody that can write, edit, and get a book published and put it out. It's like a very daunting undertaking. So I'm impressed. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's talk about what that looked like for you. Like, how long was that process? When did you know that you wanted to do it?
All great questions. So when just background, I wrote poetry in college and, in my 20s to 30s. And then, when I moved to Austin is when I started to do stand-up or try stand-up. And I stopped, and somewhere in between there, I just stopped writing poetry because it's like, well, who makes a living from writing poetry or whatever? I was busy doing other things. So I really hadn't written that much poetry for many years. And then when 2020, when the pandemic happened, we could no longer do comedy shows. I took an online class from a podcast host that hosted a podcast about breakups. And I was going through a breakup, and she was also a poet. I was listening to her because I wanted to listen about this breakup. I didn't know that she was also a poet. She was teaching a class, an online class. And I was like, well, what else are we doing? I can't perform, so I'm going to take this class. And I met people through that class that introduced me to other poetry classes. So I wasn't setting out to write a book. I was just setting out to kill time, to process my emotions. And we had all this time because nobody was out doing anything. So in 2020, I started taking just a ton of writing workshops from writers who all were trapped inside and couldn't really go on tours, go on book tours, that kind of thing. So they all had this capacity to teach classes. And I met all these poets from all over the country, all over the world. I had a lot of personal interactions with poets who were very good, and sort of created my own version of an MFA program, which I'd always wanted to do, but it seemed like a reckless decision to get an MFA and invest money in your creative
MFA?
pursuit, a Master's of Fine Arts in creative writing.
Right.
And they're not STEM programs where there's a lot of funding, so you often have to pay your own way. And how do you do that as somebody who's a full adult with a mortgage? How do you take time off to do an MFA program? So I was taking all these classes. I had a very easy job at that time, an easy day job. So I was able to take these classes in the evenings. And this just, I guess between 20 and 21, one of the places that I was taking classes from was called Community Literature Initiative. They are a program in Los Angeles. And they have this book publishing program. So the idea is that you work with them for 9 months. You're just writing. And close to the end of that 9 months, you put a book together, work with a cover designer, work with an editor, learn how to pitch your book to publishers. They have an event where you would go and basically submit a packet to publishers, and these publishers would be invited to like hear the graduating class read their work. And then, and they also tell you how to self-publish a book too. And so then you kind of wait and see if anybody's interested in publishing your book, or if you want to go the route of self-publishing. And then that's where you work with an editor. So you weren't really like totally editing yourself. But yeah, a great small press in Los Angeles called World Stage Press, who publishes all kinds of poetry, picked up my book, and they really helped make that happen. And that was in, I think, December of 21.
What was that?
Is when it got published.
How did it feel when you found out that like a legitimate publisher like wanted to publish your book?
I mean, it was very exciting for sure, and felt like legitimizing, and it was just a very exciting time in my life. We were coming out of the pandemic a little bit. I got to go to LA a bunch of times to work with them, and ideally that would be like the best job in the world, to do like a day job in Austin, but be able to travel and do readings at cool places, like in cool cities where there's literary presence, and go speak. Like, honestly, that's what I would love to do, is speak about poetry, read poetry, give lectures on comedy, how to incorporate comedy into things like poetry or storytelling or essays, and be paid to just talk about those things, because I feel like I have good stuff to share about all of that. But it would be a risk, because it would involve, quitting the
9 to 5,
the security of a 9 to 5. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big leap.
Which is also something that I really enjoy too, my 9 to 5. So
yeah. Was there ever a moment when you were writing the book where you were filled with a lot of like self-doubt of like, what the hell am I doing? Like,
no,
who's
because
going to want to read this?
I wasn't thinking about, I think this is different probably if you're writing a novel. I know it's got to be different. I think novel writers, fiction writers, long form fiction is like a whole other beast. But honestly, like with poetry, it was just like, what I was doing was writing every day and reading every day. So this allowed me to not be so precious about things like we had talked about earlier. And that was more freeing. And I wasn't thinking about what's going to go in the book. I was thinking about just finishing the poem kind of. So it wasn't like thinking about this whole global thing.
Yeah.
It was more just thinking about what I was working on in that moment. I think like there's a million things I would do differently. I wouldn't have included everything in there. I would have curated it better now in retrospect.
Everybody that releases any kind of art always looks at it and says, yeah, I would have done something different, or I would have changed that, or like, I don't know a single artist that is like, no, that's exactly 10 years later, that's exactly what I would have done today, Yeah,
that said, I think it still hits what I was trying to do, which is I named it, it's called Snacks for the Love Hungry. It's named after one particular poem, but also the people that I was having read my work as I was deciding what to include, and workshopping, where like most of your poems talk about food. Each poem has some reference to food in it. And so there's themes, there's food, there's a lot of pop culture in it. It's very nostalgic because it's a lot of exploration of like my youth. And so I divided the book into 5 sections. Each section has a particular emotional theme, and I named the section after like a snack that would represent that. So the book starts off with like my angry poems, and that's the salty black licorice section. By the time we get to the end, those poems are all in the trail mix section. So hopefully there's some growth. And so I feel like I executed that clever idea well. I like that the poems many of them can be about a dark subject, but they have a comedic tone to them to help keep things light and like sort of express the resiliency around it. So I think the insecurity part came when trying to decide which poems, like laying everything out on the floor and like looking at that for weeks and
picking
weeks,
and choosing which
and
ones make the cut.
where goes where, like what goes where. And if I do that again, I'll probably approach it differently and have somebody like try to be more critical and see what happens.
Well,
Even though I
it's
was
really well
potentially
done, and I really love how you like played with the formatting of different poems. Like there's a lot of like spaces, and some of them are sideways, and like just the way that it's laid out in the book is very creative. Obviously, the writing is very creative and really good, but like it's a fun read. It's enjoyable. It's like kind of keeps you engaged in this other way.
Thank you. I think that's a result too of taking so many workshops with so many people, like really challenging myself to write in different forms. And so, you know, if I'm not working with somebody, I might just like write the same kind of poem over and over again. But if you're forced into writing a sonnet or a pantoum or like some other kind of form, then it kind of like just challenges you to explore the subject matter differently. So that's cool. And I will definitely try to do that again, I think, for the second book.
Super cool. I don't know. I've been toying with the idea of writing a book.
Oh, cool.
For a few years now. And every part of it sounds overwhelming to me. One is like I'm dyslexic and I don't enjoy the process of writing, but I have been writing my whole life, like poems and lyrics, and you know, I used to write short stories and things like that. I have these some ideas around writing a book, but then every time I think about it, it just, you know, it sounds like an impossible process that would take me years and years and years. And yeah, maybe it's worth spending the years and years and years working on something. But yeah, it's one of those things that I get really impressed with. So, you know, just like putting out an album and like holding my CD for the first time, like I'm sure, you know, having your stack of books and holding it for the first time, seeing it on bookshelves. You posted something this morning that, you know, was restocked on at a local bookstore. I mean, that's got to just feel so good.
Yeah, it does. I think because when you, first of all, I think that if you're trying to write a book, what happens if you just write one part of it, like one thing that you want, one thing that you're moved to write at that time, and not necessarily think about like, is this going to turn into a book? Not that you asked, but how I felt when like thinking about like something that I wrote a few years ago where I would change it today, or it still like makes me feel very good that people will call to ask to stock it, and that it's still of interest. Like, because in my mind, I'm like, we're done with that. We need to move on to the next thing. Yeah. But that is the cool thing about like an actual material piece of art, like whether it's an album, like a physical, like something that isn't just online necessarily, which having something online is also very, very cool. But the experience is a little bit different when there is this material piece out there. And the fact that bookshops still exist, all of that is amazing. And the fact that I want to buy books from other writers, and like the way that feels, and like the way that paper feels. Like I was introduced to a writer. I was at City Lights bookstore in San Francisco. This was actually shortly before I started writing poetry again. And I've been thinking then for like many years, like I kind of want to get back into writing poetry. And I was like, I should be reading more poetry. And I was just in San Francisco for a work trip, went to City Lights bookstore because of course you need to go there. And this writer, Mary Ruffley, I think I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. I picked up her book mainly because I just liked the way that the paper felt. And then I just fell in love with like her prose poetry. And I picked up some other books and started just like reading more poetry again and thinking about writing it. Just I was writing like really kind of bad stuff compared to like what I would start writing maybe a year later when I was being more focused. So yeah, I think having a material book is a really cool accomplishment. And I mean, books feel cool. The word book is cool.
Books feel cool. They look cool.
Yeah.
Everybody has books in their house. It is one of those things. And like, I think so many people think about writing books, you know, like maybe I would write about this, maybe, you know, but when you break down the process, it gets overwhelming and intimidating really quickly, I think, especially for me. So again, massive congrats to you on that.
Thank you.
You know, it seems like people people resonate with it and like it and buy it. And yeah, it's super cool. There's some really, really great stuff in there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Looking back on it now, is there advice that you would give yourself before you started writing the book that you wish you had?
I think the only advice is kind of around the editing part, which is that once you do this, like I think I thought because a legitimate publisher published it, that like no one, it's going to be so hard to ever find a publisher again. And since then I've talked to like many poets who have published more than one book. There are a lot of small presses. There are writers who have small presses and their mission is something similar to what I'm trying to do with a comedy show, which is like, you know, continue to feature people that I want to encourage or think are funny or believe in. And so, and also there's incredible opportunities to self-publish. Like self-publishing doesn't necessarily, it takes time, but it doesn't necessarily have the same like connotation that it could, where like you can just create your own press and self-publish under that, you know? So I think one piece of advice would be that like, I think every artist feels this way, that like, this is going to be the last song I write. This is going to be the last thing I write. I'm never going to be able to, it's kind of like after you have a relationship too, like I'm probably never going to date again. Like that was it. Like there's not going to, like this whole scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
And that would be my piece of advice, that this can be what it needs to be. It doesn't need to be everything. And you don't need to discourage yourself to think it needs to be everything. And that's kind of like a piece of advice that I would try to give myself in a lot of situations. Like things don't need to be everything. They can be just what they are. This next book could be what it is.
Yeah.
And there's going to be other opportunities, and you're not going to stop writing. You're not going to run out of ideas until maybe one day when you die. But I mean, you know,
you very well could run out of ideas. And I think,
but something else will fill its place probably.
Yeah. I mean, to counter that, I think making art, you know, in a lot of ways should be, this is my final statement. This is everything that I have. Because if you're like, I'm only going to put 20% in this because I'm thinking about the next thing already, it's diluted. You know, same thing with a relationship. You know, I'm not going to love this person 100% because then I won't have enough to give the next person that I'm in a relationship with. It's just not a great mentality. So it's like, when I wrote songs, I did very much be like, I'm putting everything that I have into this album as if it's the last thing that I will ever do, you know? And then at the end, it feels impossible. Like I gave it everything. How could I possibly do it again? Some people can't and some people do, you know?
I think I agree with exactly what you're saying. I think I just meant it. Like if I get hung up on like, not finishing something because I think like something else is coming and I need to wait for that, and or again, just being like so precious where it becomes paralyzing. Yeah. And that's the part that I think I want to just give myself permission to, or any writer permission to stop, and it's okay. And like something has to stop in order for the next thing to start too. And that can be so scary.
Yeah, it can be terrifying.
There's like a grief period in the creative process that we don't talk about as much because I think so many of us are thinking about beginning something, not the ending of something.
Yeah. No, I mean, I still, you know, for me, you know, the last record that I wrote, I did put everything that I had into it, and I have not been inspired to make another record since, you know? Like I felt like I left so much on the table, and now it's been, you know, 16 years or something like that. And just now I'm like, oh, maybe I do have things to say again, you know? But maybe I don't, you know? It's also like, do I want to say those things so badly that I want to go through the entire process of what it takes to actually create something? Not today.
Sure.
Not today. It's not pouring out of me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
So I think that's also something that we don't talk about in the artistic journey, is like some people are artists because they can't not do it until one day they've got it out of them, you know?
Yeah.
And then I see a lot of artists like continue to try to put workout, but you can see that like they don't really have it anymore, but they feel like they're supposed to because they kind of chose this path, if that makes sense. So they're trying to self-manufacture the feeling of the thing that came so naturally to them maybe when they were younger, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just like being patient. I mean, I've surely like taken workshops and not really felt compelled to be writing, or I'm too busy kind of in that moment. So something gets written, but it's like, just like, because that was like inspired by a television show I watched that day, not because it's like something that was truly affecting me. But I never know, like, the thing that ultimately does get created that's more truthful and honest and meaningful probably needed all that other weird shit to happen or be written about first in order to get there. That's how a joke gets crafted, is like there, you have an idea and opinion. And for me and a lot of the people that I've worked with too, like you write so much stuff and then in the editing process, you're like, that actually isn't needed anymore, but it becomes precious and it's a nugget and you're like, well, I don't want to let go of it, instead of just honoring that, like you had to have that there to get to where the joke needed to be, but now it served its purpose and it can go away. But it doesn't mean that it wasn't important. It was, because it got you to like the point that you were trying to say. And I think that all those shitty little poems that really aren't meaningful, like maybe I practice a new technique or something and maybe that'll come into play. I just can't see it right there in that moment.
Yeah. It's part of the journey.
So maybe some of these people that are writing music that's not as like passionate or moving, it's what they need to be doing because they can't not stop or something, and that gets them to the next place. Who knows?
No, that's really fair. I like that a lot, and that makes so much sense just in life in general. You know, like the job that you hate might be the job that's leading to the job that you love, or you know, relationship that just broke your heart might be the one that you needed to learn the things so that you can be the partner for the person that's coming next, you know, all that stuff.
Yeah. I met somebody that I really enjoyed dating when I had to get my locks replaced because a shitty thing happened first, you know, that at the time was like, oh my God, why do I have to go through with this? Woe is me. And then I met somebody really cool from that situation. That was like, oh, I'm really happy that bad thing happened because this cool thing happened now, you know?
Yeah. You never know what is happening in your life today, how that is affecting whether it's art or something in your life, like how it adds up to the story that's coming.
For sure. Are we drafting an outline for a screenplay right now?
Well, of course we are. Of course we are. Talking about comedy a little bit more, is there any topic that you're still like too nervous to touch?
I think age in it, like I'm talking about age, but I'm not like getting so vulnerable with it because it's too fresh right now, like some parts of it. Yeah. So anything that's like,
so you're kind of talking about it, but you're like dancing around it and flirting with it instead of like really getting real.
Kind of like I'm talking about maybe my experiences a year ago and not like what I'm currently experiencing, which feels more daunting and scary. It's kind of like if you get out of a relationship and you want to talk about the relationship and you get on stage and it's just too fresh and it makes audiences uncomfortable. But like with some time and space, then you can actually talk about it in a way that the audience is assured that you're safe. And so anything where I am experiencing it in the moment is like what I am too afraid to talk about. But it's the thing that you want to talk about the most because it's the thing that's the most immediate and what's going on, you know? So figuring out like which therapist you need to share that information with on your way on the road to creating it.
You said something there that's really interesting to me. You said so that the audience makes sure that they know that you're safe.
Yeah.
Like, is that necessary?
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
People, like you've seen it, you've witnessed it and been like, when you feel like embarrassed for somebody or you're like, oh God, I need them to get off stage or I need to get out of this room. That's because it's too fresh, you know? It's And so like this is what an open mic is for. It's like, because nobody cares and nobody's even listening at an open mic. So if something horrible happened to you that day, go talk about it at an open mic. But you'll kind of sense like the energy in the room shifts, and you're like, oh, I can't talk about that yet.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a few funny lines that I write in my journal and I circle for a few months from now when it is better, and when
Yeah.
Like if the relationship goes sour and it's just like somebody on stage ranting about how that other person sucked, it's like, oh, you're not safe yet. Like this is like.
I never thought about that. That's interesting. It makes sense, I guess. Like it still has to be funny, and it has to feel funny to the audience. Has to think that you think it's funny. And
Even
if you don't
you're
think if you're still like suffering from it, it's probably not funny to you yet. Right?
Or even there, you could think that parts of it are funny, but maybe there's just too much anger that's still attached to it. There's that saying that comedy is tragedy plus time, and that's just it.
I've never heard that before, but I guess that's probably a common phrase in the comedy world.
I think I'm not butchering it. I think that the even if I don't have the saying exactly right, the sentiment is
I'm
that
going to say that you are not butchering it.
Okay, the sentiment
it sounded real. The way that you delivered it, I was like, this is an expert talking here.
Okay.
She knows,
Thank you.
She knows what's up.
Yeah.
Do you have like a lot of jokes that really come from a place of hurt that over time are
yeah,
funny?
there's tons. Yeah, like I haven't said this recently, but when I was going like a couple years ago, I was kind of seeing two people at once, or like one was tapering off, but we weren't like totally committed, and this other thing was about to start, but I think I was like not emotionally available enough for it to whatever. It doesn't even matter. That's the background. That's like what happens when it's too fresh. You've got like nobody cares about that part. The joke is that like everyone is in your life for a reason. This guy was in my life to introduce me to my next two therapists. So like, but like how that joke would have started when it was too fresh is like, he kept sending me oblique one word texts and like whatever. It's like just too detailed, and like venting. Nobody cares about that shit. Exactly. Yeah. It's too venting, and like too much shows my own madness, and not in a way where I'm being self-deprecating about my own madness.
Yeah.
And then you could apply that joke to basically anything. Like this other guy like introduced me to a delicious dairy-free cheese. That's why he was in my life, just trying to spin relationships and also make fun of them if it's like, wow, what value this person brought to you is introducing you to an architecture podcast.
And now you're into architectural podcasts?
I haven't listened to that podcast in a while, but I'm not opposed to it. I was interested in architecture before that. I'm like a architectural groupie. Like I want to know more about it. I feel like I meet a lot of architects. I've dated a lot of architects.
I don't think I've ever met an architect.
I don't know what I'm in like in my architect era, or I don't know if I'm in it right now, but the past few years I've like just architects are around me.
The only time I've ever met an architect is when friends of mine were building a house, and like they're like, "Oh, our architect's coming over."
Interesting.
But I've never like seen one in the wild.
I think it's interesting because I know a bunch of them in the wild, but here's like a thing. Like I've never dated a doctor. I couldn't imagine dating somebody in the medical profession really. Like I'm not opposed to it, but it's just like, it's like weird who you attract on a, like if you look at it like at a macular level, I guess like macular, is that macular degeneration? Macro level, not macular. Macaroni level. No.
I believe you said it with conviction. I believed you for a second.
I don't think that's the right use of that word, but I could be wrong. A macro level, like I guess if you are a person who's single and has dated a lot, and like just like looking at like who you've attracted over the years. So
why couldn't you imagine yourself dating a doctor?
I don't know. I think because they're just like very like, I think I'm attracted to artsy people. I used to be attracted to damaged artsy people. I think I'm not as attracted as much to the damaged part,
But still slightly.
Maybe. I mean, we're just like mirrors for each other, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not a people person. Like I'm a people person, like I'm extroverted, but I don't need a hand holding and care. And I think doctors and medical professional people do that for a living. Maybe that's why. I don't know.
I've met some doctors that are not people at all and have no care or hand holding in life.
Well, I don't know. I just think about the good doctors that I've had who've had amazing bedside manner, and that's not a euphemism, but just like caring people. I don't know. I just think it's surprising that I haven't really gone out on even like more than like 1 or 2 dates with a doctor in my.
I've definitely never dated a doctor. I dated a veterinarian once.
That's cool.
That's about as close as I've come.
I just think I would feel like inept dating a doctor. Like, what do I have? I just am writing these silly poems. I don't think a doctor would be interested in my artsy life, you know?
Yeah, I don't think a doctor would be interested in
and I don't want to, like, the surgeons have a God complex. I love my podiatrist. I don't know why I'm talking about this. I'm a woman of a certain age, so I have a podiatrist. I used to have a great ear, nose, and throat doctor. He retired. He was so good.
I don't even know. I mean, I know a podiatrist is a foot doctor, but why would you go? What do you go to them for?
I had plantar fasciitis. Is this sexy yet? I've also can talk about sciatica.
So hot.
So I had something called a fasciotomy. He was so good. He introduced me to a really good physical therapist. So I loved him because he was like not rushing to surgery right away. His name is Dr. Hubbard, if anybody needs a recommendation of a good doctor, a good podiatrist in Austin. But I went to physical therapy for months. I really loved that physical therapist. It was a great, like, physical therapy is so fun because it's like kind of like regular therapy at the same time. You're like around this person for 8 to 12 weeks with a TheraBand or whatever. And they're massaging you and you're like, this is expensive and really a fucking pain in the ass to get to I have to leave work to get here. But then you're like talking to them because they're.
And it's it feels like such a happy environment and there's like multiple people
there's
at
balls,
different stations
kettlebells.
doing things.
Yeah. It's like circuit training. It's like Orange Theory, but like friendly.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I had to get some fascia broken up in my foot. So I had a surgery.
Yeah.
And that's when I saw the podiatrist.
Well, I will look this guy up if I ever need foot care.
Okay.
For sure. We talked about this before the interview, but you brought up imposter syndrome and like your feelings behind that. And I love talking about imposter syndrome. So when did you start feeling imposter syndrome around your comedy, your art, your writing?
I think that I'm like an elder millennial, whatever, generationally. I think by some definitions I might be Gen X. So again, like starting comedy in a time, I think like timing plays into some of this imposter syndrome and not having like role models who looked like me, whatever that means exactly. But like doing comedy as a woman at a time in Austin when there weren't as many open mics, like starting out. And seeing a bunch of men do comedy and the things that they talk about are quite a bit different than the things that I would want to talk about, and sort of getting something in my head that was like sort of stuck around like, well, because I'm not talking about weed and because I'm not talking about jacking off or whatever men might have been talking about, therefore I'm not funny, instead of realizing that whatever's important to you can be funny. I now have the experience of like I've taught comedy for like 8 years or 7 years. 8 years. And have seen, I mean, that's like hundreds of students, and seen like, I just have opinions about that I don't know. Like in my experience, women it comes more naturally for women to get vulnerable more quickly, and therefore exactly what we were talking about at the beginning, sort of like if something is very specific to you, even if you can't relate to it, it can still be very entertaining and very funny. And I just didn't know that, and nor did I have anybody who could like tell me that. Nor did I have the vocabulary to express that that's why I maybe didn't feel like I was a legitimate comedian, and therefore didn't like go out for as many opportunities or really believe in myself.
Yeah.
Because I never fully let go of like the security of my job. And that's okay. This is like, I never really wanted to be a touring road comedian. So I think just thinking that things needed to be one way, and now there's all these different opportunities. If you could be a comedian, and that can mean a lot of different things. It can mean writing. It can mean being only on TikTok. It could mean so many different things. And I think that because of, I mentioned the millennial thing, just because of like where I think I was in the age of where, like the age of when I was doing this, with the age of like what was happening at that time with like various vehicles and media to perform in, it just felt like more limiting to me. But also that could have been in my head. So I don't know if I fully answered this question, but I think
Yeah, it makes sense.
just being really in my own head about something versus like being able to see it from a wider global perspective, macular, if you will, a macro perspective.
Macular
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, the being in the head thing is really what it all comes down to for me. Like, my head is always trying to convince me that I don't belong in whatever room that I'm in, you know? And I don't know if that's ever going to stop. I thought it would stop at some point, but it still is just like, there's this constant voice saying, no, that's not for you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And, yeah, sometimes it just takes an enormous amount of work to do it anyways and like prove yourself wrong.
Yes.
You know? Because, yeah, the imposter syndrome definitely feels like a self-imposed punishment almost. It's not other people saying you don't belong.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
nobody else. You're right. I think it's like being able to surround yourself with somebody who would tell you the thing that you need to tell yourself that you can tell other people. Like I can tell students this until I'm blue in the face, not to be cliche. But I can't do it with myself. But I do have friends, like as we're talking about this, and mentors that I know would say this to me. But do I unless their help? Who knows?
Yeah. Okay. So we are going to jump to our closing questions that I love to ask everybody. So the first one is about messy moments. Mm-hmm. Can you share with us a messy moment in your life that, looking back on it now, like you learned something from it or realized, like kind of like what we were talking about earlier, like I needed to go through that in order to get to this?
Oh yeah. For sure. I mean, like messy moments. I definitely have tons of things. I learn things all the time. But the thing that I think sort of sticks out is that I never thought was going to end. And I sometimes think like whenever I'm in, like, I think human beings were so resistant to any sort of change or being in any sort of like liminal space, like the thing before the next thing. And, I mean, my book has like a bunch of poems that were inspired by a breakup that was very like time consuming for me to like get over, you know? And one of the longest things it took me to get over in general, I think it was like 2 or 3 years before I started to come up from like for oxygen from this ending of something. But during that time, all of these really cool things happened. Like I worked with like, because the reason why is because I had to really look at myself and why I was so attached in that way to that person and attached to an idea that didn't like turn out the way I wanted it to. And I just like worked with a bunch of different coaches. I explored a lot of help and assistance that I think absolutely led me to feeling so much more secure in myself. But I don't really feel like that's super interesting to touch on.
I think it's very, heartbreak is one of those like world altering things, like ending of relationships. It's a grief, it's a death, you know? And, I feel that a lot. I can look back on my life, like my first girlfriend that broke my heart. I was sick about it for years. And I am so grateful that she did.
Yes.
Because,
yeah.
Looking back now, I know her still, like, peripherally, like Facebook or whatever. And, like, I wouldn't want to be in a relationship with her today. Like, we're just so different, and we're like, she's not even close to the type of woman that I am choosing to date now. So it's just like, but you can't tell yourself that. No one can tell you that. People try to tell you that after a breakup. Like, you're going to feel like it's all happening for a reason, and you guys just weren't. And it's just like, you can't hear it. You can't feel it. It just feels like it's over. And so I think that's a great answer to this question, because those are some of the moments that are the most difficult for people.
Yeah. I mean, this idea of like the one that got away, like I don't have any regrets about any of them that got away. Like or like the nerves, like I spent so much energy in that breakup thinking like, oh my God, what happens when I see this person next? Like, will I be winning or will they be winning? And I think I'll just die if I see them. And I could give a shit. Like you know, I wish him well. I have love to that. And I have not even seen him. I think I've seen him like once and we didn't actually see each other. Yeah. And so that was just like, I think it all happened the way it needed to. Yeah. But you don't know in the moment that like you need to go through, you need to learn patience and feel pain, and that it's not going to kill you, even though it really feels like it's going to in the moment.
One of the joys in life is love, but like one of the certainties in life is heartbreak. Like,
yeah.
And so it's like, I've been trying to like view it as like, what a gift that I liked somebody so much that I could still be so sad from it, you know, that I was that affected by another person for a moment in time that could, maybe I'll never love somebody that much ever again, you know. That's true. It's probably not likely, but it's true. Like, well,
it is rare. I think it's like, you know, we can be on apps and date, but it is rare that somebody affects you. Like we don't have, like, not everybody that comes into our lives, it's great, it's cool, it's interesting, it's compelling, but
there's a handful that really cut to the
core. Or that give you this experience that shows you that you're capable of caring for somebody that much, or that like whatever, that these moments are magical and that we get to experience them, unlike how I'm like whatever
it's lame. No, it's super cool, and I like that answer a lot. Okay. Next question. What's something that you used to care way too much about and that you couldn't care less about?
So I feel like I have a serious version and a light version.
Let's go serious.
Serious.
Take A.
I mean, I feel like we've talked about this throughout this whole conversation, but just this idea that like the traditional life template that like I think even if I wasn't thinking like I need to go out and do this, there's this underlying pressure to, I will be okay if somebody chooses to marry me, if I am chosen, if I have this life, even like, and then I know people that did this and got divorced and like knew on their wedding day that they didn't want to be married. Like, but it's too embarrassing to end it. And like, you're just going along with it. You're on a roller coaster. Yeah. And I don't think that at all now. Like, I'm like, oh, I actually get to do everything that I want to do. And if somebody is in my life and that's what we choose to do, and that that's cool too. But you can have an absolutely perfect, fulfilled life on your own as well. And feel taken care of. And I feel that. And I get all of my needs met. Like I have friendships with men and women. And I think when I was younger, I was looking for one person to fulfill all these needs. And I get all of them met today, just most of them, through like various people in my life and activities in my life. Like I go out dancing, and so I have physical connection with people, and I don't necessarily need to be in a raggedy relationship where I'm like worried about all other shit, you know, that they're going through. Okay. I don't know. Didn't necessarily need to say the last part, but
yeah, I mean, I think I struggle with that a lot still is like this idea of what my life is supposed to look like and how I measure up to other people. And like, yeah, I don't own a house and I'm not married and I don't have kids, and like, will I ever have those things? It feels like I'm supposed to have those things, or I'm a failure if I don't. And then there's certain days where I'm like, but this is my life. I get to, like, I decide if I'm a failure or not based on what is important to me. And, you know, like, are these things important to me, or are they important to me because I feel like society has made me feel like that they're the most important things? And so I wrestle with that a lot.
I wake up and I love so much of, like, I love my plants. I love my coffee. I love the fact that I could go do whatever I want, that I have expendable income that I get to spend on myself. And, you know, then I also, saw a picture of somebody's twin babies, like they're like toddlers, and they were just so cute. And I was like, oh, I can see why people want that, and that's great too, because I guess maybe those kids are going to take care of her when she's older. But also, like, it's okay. Like, I like my life a lot. I love going to travel by myself. I love traveling with other people. Like, the world is just big, and life is big and fun. And there's all these different roads, and they're all great.
Yeah, and your life can look 1,000 different ways.
Sliding
and you can
doors.
change what it looks like at any time.
Yeah.
You know, like, your path isn't defined by, like, oh, well, I chose that I'm going to do this, and now I just have to do that forever.
Yes.
Like, I think that's a great answer. I don't need option B.
Okay.
We'll save the humor for this one.
Okay.
Hit me with your best hot take or unpopular opinion.
I don't know if I'm the only person who said this. I don't know why I need to be the only person who said this, but there's just too many options for how to drink your water. Like, why do we need so many water bottles? We aren't even really sure what's going to happen to water, yet we have just a lot of Stanley Cups.
I think that the Stanley Cup craze is one of the most ridiculous crazes. I don't understand it.
Like, I feel like, there's the Anthropocene era and the Pleistocene era and whatever, all these eras of, like,
the geological formation,
civilization, or I don't know what it's even called. Like,
like
time, eras and epochs. And, yes, there's, like, I think we're past Stanley. Now we're on to Awala. Like, and then there's Yeti and Hydro Flask. Yeah. So, like, it's too much. And why, like, this concern of being hydrated, like, I'm not into it. I used to drink water out of a mason jar, like some kind. What was that about? That was also crazy in its own thing. That was a phase too. And like, I was trying to be some cottagecore homemaker at the office with my mason jar. I vowed after I purchased a Stanley Cup. Well, that's not true. I did purchase one. I did.
I'm throwing judgment.
Here's why. Because I'd
here.
started a job right around the Stanley Cup craze, and I was like, I incorporated it into my office decor. I was like, well, I need one that's the same color as my company's, logo and branding. And so I bought one, and I truly don't even like it. I don't like it because the straw, it seems too complicated to clean. I do have a preference. It's called Kinto. It's a Japanese brand. It's well designed. It's the last one I'm ever going to buy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it also have the straw stick?
Doesn't have a straw.
Good. I think it's the most impractical thing. I see people with them at the gym, and I'm like, that is not, that's not a gym cup. Like, anything with a straw protruding that you can knock over and spill is not a fitness device or accessory or whatever. I don't know.
Well, it's just,
I feel a lot of judgment around the Stanley Cup. Every time I see someone with one, especially at the gym, I'm like, you're a sucker.
Yeah, I just think there's too many kinds.
Yeah.
Like, how many water bottles do you really need in your life?
I only need one.
Why do I have a Hydro Flask that's in a box, from like years ago? Like, it's from the Pleistocene area. Pleistocene? I don't know how you pronounce these things.
Yeah, I don't either.
So I guess that's my hot take, but everyone has it.
No, I like it. I like it. I've been on the anti-Stanley Cup hot take for a while. But I haven't ever said it out loud, I don't think so.
Okay.
Now I'm on record. Come at me. This has been great.
Thank you. Yeah, it has been fun.
I'm really, really thank you for, like, taking the time to come out here and talk to me and share everything that you've shared. That's it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Yeah. Everybody, thanks for listening to Who Cares? We're glad you're here. Go like, follow, subscribe, all that stuff. If you like this episode, share it with somebody that you like. If you hated this episode, share it with somebody that you don't like. Oh, yeah. You can find Valerie on socials where?
At Valerie Nies, Knees. So the phonetical pronunciation of my name.
We'll have that in the show notes. And you can find us at Who the Pod Cares, or head to whothepodcares.com to check out more. That is our show.
Thank you.
Bye.